Fun. Okay.
And now we're being live streamed too, so it's day 5 already. So if you haven't seen day 1, 2, 3, 4, you might want to check those out too. But this is day 5, and it's Ajahn Brahm's turn to give a Dhamma talk, and after that, a guided meditation. So welcome, Ajahn. Good afternoon.
Welcome, everybody. And the time is, we're not late, it's just the sun goes around a bit too fast sometimes. So we have to just slow down and just make peace, to be in the present moment, not be a prisoner of time. Remember, I said that in one of the first talks, in order to just to be here right now. And because that you were wondering when it was going to start, remember last night I said, I think it was, that always to remember, last night my time, yesterday, I don't know, sometime your time, that it was to 2 types of waiting: patience, waiting in the moment, or waiting in the future, waiting for something to happen, or waiting right now. And this is why part of those little wonderful ways of teaching meditation to people who haven't got quite an idea what it is. And they think they're always having an internal conversation, always think they're restless, and they don't know how to be silent, be peace, and feel meditation. Meditation is an emotional state, not an intellectual state. And to show that, there's a little trick which I've often done before, and if you haven't heard this before, here it comes. That when I give a talk, especially if it's a talk on meditation, I ask people not just to be aware of what I say, but the reaction you have in your mind. Because as I am talking, you will start to notice some gaps between my words. In those spaces, what was happening in your mind? For most of you, you'd have noticed that your mind was silent. You were waiting for me to start speaking again, and you didn't know when I would speak. In that beautiful waiting in this moment, you have silence. One of the reasons why I often say that I like learning from nature. There was a good question which came up yesterday. In question time, you don't have much chance to give a full answer, but the answer is so manifold in nature. There is so many opportunities for silence. I know sometimes people like to go to forests, but even forests, there's animals in that forest, and they're quite noisy. Over there in UK or in Europe, this time of the year, it's silent because it's a winter time. And very often there's nobody around. We're fortunate during COVID time, hopefully, there's not many aircraft in the sky. And so you can find some places of quiet. And if it's real nature, you can actually, excuse me, real nature, there's so many beautiful places where it's so peaceful. And in that peace, in that silence, what are you missing? What do you want in that silence? You don't want anything, because silence, especially for people who live in a very noisy world, is beautiful. It's restful. It's like liberation. It's like free. It's one of the reasons why nature is much more silent than the city or the town. And the nature is much more silent than if you're living at home and got a TV on, making so much noise. And it's wonderful to turn that TV off, turn everything off, and just listen. Just close your eyes. Because when you close your eyes, as I mentioned, you're not seeing anything. And if it's a reasonably quiet place, the background noise vanishes. You're just seeing the beautiful forest inside of yourself. It's safe, it's peaceful. And the silence is something which, after a while, gives you so much joy and energy. That's the inner nature of yourself. But little by little, I love nature, but of course the best parts of nature for me are always the caves. You know that sometimes many people like to go in places like Australia or in Europe during the summertime to oceans, and to beaches, but they are so noisy. Even if you can find an isolated beach, still that is very noisy. Just the sound of the ocean. It's repetitive, but it's not as quiet as when you go to places like caves, which is one of the reasons of all parts of nature, it's the caves which I like the most. And that's one of the reasons also why the Buddha, he used to describe meditation as a journey into the cave of the heart, Hadayan Guha, which means like an ordinary cave. It goes in there, it's dark, so you don't be, you're not disturbed by sounds. You're not disturbed by sights. You're not disturbed by sounds either. In those caves which I've meditated in, it's so easy to meditate. I remember some of the caves I went to, the other people who like to live in caves are bats. And I do recall this one cave in the north of Thailand where, I spent 4 or 5 months in this monastery, for my 6 months, I think. And I used to go in that cave after the morning dana every morning and stay in there till the afternoon, meditating. And I just enjoyed myself so much in there. But because there were so many bats, they were silent in there, but you could smell their poo, the bat poo. And to this day, I associate bat poo with one of the most wonderful smells, delightful smells. It's weird. When I smell bat poo, that smells delightful. The other smell I remember, which is also delightful, is like tar, like coal tar, because after the Second World War, that most of the metal railings on the parks in London, especially the poor parts of London, those parks in which I used to spend so much time playing football, they only had wooden railings on them. And those wooden railings, to protect them from the weather, were painted with tar. And I had a lovely childhood. And so to this day, when I smell that tar, it smells delightful. It's one of those insights into what is delightful, what's not delightful. It's basically what you've conditioned yourself to associate happiness with. Beautiful memories from the past, delightful smells from the past. But anyway, to go from how we learn from nature, and most people will think like tar smells disgusting or bat poo is disgusting. But to me, it's interpreted as some of the most beautiful times of my life, sitting in deep caves. And so I love nature. And you can see that it resonates with me as peaceful, delightful. And because it resonates with me peaceful and delightful, that means it's very easy to develop joy and happiness and safety there. When you can develop that safety and that joy and that happiness wherever you are, of course, it becomes very easy to meditate. Sometimes you wonder just why it is that a person is in a peaceful one place and it's easy to meditate. Other places are not so easy to meditate. Why is that? And sometimes it's just psychologically how we regard the place in which we're meditating. If in the meditation hall in my monastery, I sort of sprinkled bat poo everywhere, then people, this is disgusting, get it out of here. But for me, my meditation would be even better than usual, because it would allow me to actually to resonate with that beautiful experiences of the past and get some happiness up straight away. I feel safe, I feel welcome. And that would be allowing me to relax all my guards, to let go and allow things to be and get into some really nice meditations. Now, this is saying something about the place in which you meditate and how you can develop some happiness there. And so sometimes you find out the things which do inspire you, the things which you like, the things, not mean sensually, but will make you feel safe and comfortable. And even, sometimes the hall in Bodhinyana Monastery, for years we've been meditating in that hall, and got the same carpet in there which we had 35 years ago. It's amazing, it's still there, same old carpet. Of course, we don't sort of have parties in there, so it doesn't sort of wear out that much. But nevertheless, it's like that carpet has soaked in just the good energy of all the monks and nuns and lay people who have sat in that hall over 38 years. And that gives rise to, like maybe 36 years, give rise to this beautiful energy. And some places do have energy. And especially the front of that hall. A Feng Shui master who was brought in there, and I wasn't told about the Feng Shui master coming, just came in there, somebody else invited him in. And when he came in there, he said the front of that hall was incredibly powerful Feng Shui. I don't know what Feng Shui truly means, but I know you can feel some places are safe and energetic and powerful. Sometimes when you go and meditate, well, when you go to places like India, you go and meditate in some of the holy places in India, the places where the Buddha lived. Whoa, that's really powerful stuff there. It becomes so easy to meditate. It's if like you're drawn in. You don't do it. It's like safe. It's like peaceful. The nature has been created in those places. When actually the nature has been created in those places, again, the safety is there, the peace is there, the energy is there. And I don't know how many people over these years, they have difficulty, say, meditating on retreat. Where I live, in the retreat center, which is on the opposite side of the road to the monastery, and they walk over to the main hall in Bodhinyana, and it's easy. They get a big boost in their meditation because the nature on the outside is created. There's space for them where they're free, they feel welcome, it's easy to be kind, and the whole thing just allows you to go deeper into your mind and be more peaceful, to let go more. But there are times also, because, like when I used to travel and do many other things, sometimes you're in a noisy place. What do you do? And if you are in a noisy place, you can still create the nature in which you're meditating in. I mentioned this in brief the other day, but like creating a bubble around yourself. You're using your imagination, you're using the power of your mind to create a bubble, and this is your little cave, your little place where you can meditate. No one else can come into your little bubble. And when you're meditating in there, it is quiet, it's peaceful. And I used that many, many times, but the most recent time which I used this bubble was again going to Thailand and waiting in Sukarnabhumi Airport, Suvarnabhumi Airport, waiting there for an hour and a half for someone to arrive, and just being able to go into a little bubble, just sitting in just the main areas, which were really noisy, and just closing your eyes, imagining a bubble, creating that bubble. And when you use your imagination, it's incredible just how powerful that can be. And later on, during the guided meditation, there was a request to do a type of meditation which people call the Buddha meditation now. And where that came from was where sometimes I accept invitations to go to places where I've never been before. And this was supposed to be in a kids group over in Singapore. But the kids group into which I was invited to give some sort of talk early in the morning, I didn't realize it was a kindergarten. In other words, with 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and some 5-year-olds. And if you think it's hard teaching the Dhamma to the adults, imagine teaching dependent origination to 3, 4, 5-year-olds. You got to change the way you do things. You got to innovate. And sometimes being put in difficult situations it's great sort of how you can innovate. You allow your mind to be peaceful and see what comes up. And a good example of that, I'm going to go back to this Buddha meditation, which I developed over in, or first innovated in a kindergarten school. I think it was called Little Flowers Kindergarten in Singapore somewhere. And even before then, I was invited to a primary school close by to teach something about Buddhism. And this was in a very heavily Christian area of Perth. And of course, I accepted the invitation, didn't know what I was going to get into. And what I had to teach were these 60 children from grade 1 and grade 2 in the school. The first years, I thought, my goodness, how can I teach Buddhism to grade 1s and grade 2s? And so what I did, they were all there sitting on the floor looking at me. And also because some of the parents were a bit sort of concerned about exposing their children to a Buddhist instead of a Christian, many of the parents were there and the teachers were there. And then I had to teach them. And what I said was a very wonderful simile. So just imagine, not just imagine, sorry. I asked everybody, how many of the 60 kids sitting in front of me, how many like rice pudding? I don't know if you ever had rice pudding, but I used to have that as one of the sweets we used to have in UK. When I was young, rice pudding, just rice and milk and sugar and baked. It was quite nice. It's very cheap, so my parents were poor. Rice pudding. I said, how many of you like rice pudding? Now you can imagine what it was like in a class of 60 children, in a sort of big room. There's one or two of the kids put their hand up straight away. They did not like rice pudding. And another few kids looked around and they saw these 2 or 3 with their hands up, so they put their hand up as well. And these were only just 6 or 7-year-olds. And then a few other kids put their hand up and they saw the hands were going up, so they put their hands up as well. And in 2 or 3 minutes, I had everybody, all their children in this little hall with their hands up. They agreed they did not like rice pudding. They didn't know what I was doing, where I was going with this. So I asked them to put their hands down. And after they put their hands down, then I asked, now, please put your hands up again if you have ever eaten rice pudding. And only about 5 or 6 kids put their hand up. And all the other kids laughed. And they got a message. Our likes and dislikes are conditioned by what we think we should like and what we think we shouldn't like. And this is one of the reasons why we have to be very careful with sometimes our cravings, our desires, and our way out of those desires. Even the kids realize that even the food they liked was conditioned into them as teaching them dependent origination in a way that they could understand. Where does desire come from? Our likes and dislikes come from. Then my own personal example of that, I go back to Little Gems and the kids in the school later, where that came from, I saw it very clearly for myself, was growing up in London, poor kid, but went to quite a good school, scholarships. And then I had my first drink of beer, British beer. I don't know how many of you drank beer. I wasn't a Buddhist at that time. It was just what young men would do. We drank beer. And so the first drink of beer which I had, I was actually almost gagging on it. It tasted disgusting. It was warm, bitter, and just ugh. But I couldn't express my true feelings that I didn't like it because I would lose all my friends if I was truthful. And just after 6 months, I started to like it. An accumulated taste, The deliciousness of that beer was built solely on peer pressure, nothing more. And so you started to realize just all the things you found beautiful or ugly, where do they all come from? And every now and again, to be honest with you, that sometimes, you see on news articles, people like models or singers, which I really liked when I was a young man. And I look at them now and just their fashion, did I really think they were beautiful then? They don't look beautiful now. And I'm not saying now they're aged, but just how they were then. And I often say, why did I think that was beautiful? It was because everyone else said it was beautiful. That's why. Beautiful, attractiveness, where does that come from? Even many years later, going on pilgrimage to India to the holy sites, we also stopped by the Taj Mahal, so-called one of the wonders of the world. I remember just because I had time, just sitting in the shade, just looking at that. Why? Why is it beautiful? Was it really beautiful? And to me, it was just ordinary. I could not see the beauty in it. The only reason why it's deemed as beautiful is because many, many people say so. And we believe what other people say. This is one of the reasons why many of the things which we desire and crave and attach to are not inherently full of happiness. It's just what we're told we should be doing. How we think things should be beautiful. People tell us it's beautiful, isn't it? And my answer is it? So little by little, just we question things. And when it comes down, it's a great way of, even kids could understand that. Why do you say you don't like rice pudding when you haven't ever eaten any before? And they understood that. But anyway, going to the kindergarten kids over in Singapore, just they asked me, it's Wesak time soon, the day of the birth, enlightenment, passing away of the Buddha. Can you teach the children about this? Their parents are Buddhist. Oh, that's a tough one. But I did remember as a child myself that you'd love just, not just listening, but acting, play acting. To this day, I remember when one of the teachers in the first year at primary school, they said, now we're going to stand up, everybody. We're going to imagine we're trees. We put out our arms and we're standing in the windy forest. And we're standing in a windy forest. Close your eyes. Imagine you're a tree, a huge tree. I remember that had an influence on me, even from such an early age, one of my earliest memories. So I said, okay, the Buddha's birth. According to the tradition, when the Buddha came out of his mum's womb, that he walked 7 steps and then he put his finger up and said, this is my last birth, that this I'm the chief of the world, or whatever it was. And so I asked all these 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds to do that. Okay, just stand still and walk 7 steps. They could count, and imagine you're the Buddha being just after birth, doing that and saying that. And for those of you who sometimes think that kids can't speak, newborn babies can't speak, you may have heard me say this before, but I do listen and accumulate some weird stories. And this story were 2 parents in Perth many years ago. They were Westerners. They weren't Christians or Buddhists. They were just ordinary people. They would celebrate things like Christmas or something with their family. But they had 2 children. And their youngest child had just come out of hospital with their mum. They'd just been born, just a couple of weeks old, I'd imagine. And they came to see me because they weren't Buddhists, they said, but we need to tell you something. What the heck's going on type of question. And we know that, maybe you can listen to us without thinking we're crazy. They said that when their child came home, it was time for the older child to go to bed, Peter and Paul or something. I changed their names because I don't want the family just to be embarrassed. They were Caucasians. And the mother told the eldest son, Peter, go and say goodnight to your young brother and then go to bed. And so Peter went up to his baby brother, good night, Paul. And Peter said, good night, Peter, back. He was only 1 or 2 weeks old. And that really shocked them. Mum and Dad heard it. And without being asked, the elder son, Peter, said again to his baby brother, good night, Paul. And this time with both of them paying full attention, full mindfulness. When something like that happens, your mindfulness turns up in its intensity. You're really listening. And it said it again. Good night, Peter. It was a 2-week-old baby talking. I don't know if any of you have had those experiences, hearing kids that young speak when they're not supposed to be able to speak. But I've accumulated a couple of those stories over the years. People who say we didn't tell anybody because they think we were mad. But the best story, and I think Ajahn Chanda knows this one, was when in a United States maternity ward, when the child came out of the womb, still attached to the umbilical cord, the child looked around and it spoke. But the words it spoke were just always, I'll never forget. The words it spoke were, oh no, not again. That's what it's like if you can remember your previous life and you come into a baby, oh my goodness, nappies again, going to school again, not being able to express what you need to your mum and dad. Oh, there's a lot of trouble happening there in your rebirth. But anyway, so I got the kids to imagine they were the Buddha just being born. And then Buddha becoming enlightened. That was the one which was fantastic. I'm going to come back on that in a moment. The Buddha passing away. And I asked those kids to lay on their back, lay on their sides, their right side, with their hand just underneath their right ear and the left leg on top of the right leg, as straight as they possibly could. And that's the statue which they had in this sort of Buddhist kindergarten, so they could see it, they could imagine it, and they could actually do that. And imagine that now you're passing away. No more attachments, no more worries. Everything calm and peaceful. You've done your job, now's the time to disappear. And they really got into that. But they not they got into it. The teachers and the parents were also doing it to show their kids how it was done. But actually, the parents and teachers, they were enjoying it to the max. They said, carry on, please just don't get us out of this little meditation. But even more powerful than that was the Buddha's enlightenment. And you'd all seen how the Buddha would sit down comfortably under a Bodhi tree and just cross his legs, close his eyes, and just become our Buddha, fully enlightened. And I taught the kids through this, what it meant. Sit comfortably and imagine, just imagine you're sitting under this shady tree. And in those days, where the Buddha became enlightened in Bodh it was called Uruwela. And it was a place where a big park was there. It wasn't a forest or a jungle. It was a park next to a beautiful river, the Nirangela River. And that morning, the Buddha had had a beautiful meal which was made for a heavenly being. This lady Sujata had decided to actually make an offering. It was a full moon day, to devas, heavenly beings who live in trees, and to give that meal at the foot of the tree, and saw the Buddha there, so decided to give the meal to the Buddha instead. So the Buddha had a delicious meal made for heavenly beings. He sat under a beautiful tree. And I remember just as a young man, was it 1972 or 3 or something, going over to Bodh Gaya. It was a rainy season, but there was hardly anybody there. You know, maybe just because Buddhism wasn't that popular in the Western world in those days. But you could walk around and there was hardly no beggars. There's no sort of drums or sound or anything. I remember the first time I went to Bodh Gaya, and you can understand just what it must have been like in the days when the Buddha was there, even more peaceful. Less people around, and next to a beautiful river. It would be like idyllic. It'd be like a park. And that's where he would meditate. And I was telling the kids this as they had their eyes closed. And you were getting the sense of safety and happiness and joy there. And then imagining this breeze blowing over the park, hardly any mosquitoes or no sounds of cars, no sounds of aircraft, no sort of disturbance at all. You're under this tree. And imagine then what it's like when you're enlightened. Nothing more to do in this world. Everything is finished and done. Everything, nothing more to aspire to. Nothing more you need. You're perfectly, fully enlightened. But even the kids understood just there's nothing more to be done, and we're relaxing. So often in our world, we think we better get this finished and get this done, otherwise we get criticized or we get punished or we put in detention or something, especially in places like Singapore. But now they felt free. All the work they ever needed to do was finished. No more fears of anything in the future. You've done your job, peaceful, not wanting or aspiring for anything. And it was such a powerful meditation that when even the kids came out afterwards, they didn't really want to open their eyes, but the parents said, that was great. Can you teach that to us in the evening talk? Of course, that's what I did. And that became what I call the Buddha meditation. It's not just recollecting the qualities of a Buddha, it's actually feeling them, getting that emotional truth of what meditation really is. You know, first of all, you imagine it, but imagine what it feels like. You've just been enlightened. You have nothing more to do in this world. Nothing is missing, nothing you need. And I really mean that. No aches and pains. If there are any aches and pains, it's just, they hardly affect you at all. You're at peace with the whole world. Nothing needed. Done what had to be done. You don't need anything in the whole world. And that feeling of peace and stillness, that everybody felt that, and even I really enjoyed it. And so I've often done that, not too often, because sometimes when you repeat it too many times, it loses its edge. And sometimes I wonder why. Is that a really good way of meditating? It's using your imagination. It's using your feeling to try and get these ideas of what being a Buddha must be like. And straight away, it frees you from so many concerns. Our problem is that whatever we aspire to, we want, we get stressed that way. It's, as I said the other day, is one of the definitions of suffering in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Separation from where you want to be. Here I am, and I want to be somewhere else. I want to have none of this suffering or none of this illness or whatever. That itself is a stress. Here I am and I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. So because of that, there is, I think Ajahn Chanda knows this wonderful little cartoon. There was a cartoon in, I think, four little drawings. This man came to see, let's call it, this man came to see the nun. I want happiness. He had on a placard, like one of the protesters, which you see every time in the newspapers in the world. I want happiness. And came to see the nun. And the nun said, first mistake, I. So she rubbed that out of his poster. He was still unhappy. Want happiness. Second mistake, want. And she rubbed that out. And then what was left? Showed the guy happiness. And both of them were smiling. Problem solved. It was such a simple little teaching, but incredibly powerful. I want happiness. Problem is I. Problem is want. When you get the I out and the want out, what's left? Happiness. So little by little, we actually learn just what is the obstacles to meditation. And those obstacles to meditation, I want peace. Simple solution, take off the idea of I. It's not about you anymore. You're not doing this as a personal attainment. As mentioned yesterday, but I didn't say it fully. Ajahn Chah would always say, you meditate to let go, to disappear, to renounce, not to get things. The idea is that your idea of me, I, is vanishing. And want. What do you want in this world? I want happiness. It's the wanting, it's the obstacle to getting happiness. You rub off the I, you rub off the want, and all that's left is happiness. The Buddha said it is letting go of desire. Sometimes I said it, that the problem is that suffering is asking from this world something it can never give you. That again was an answer to a question which a Singaporean asked me. He came to see me and said, look, I'm really busy, I've got to go to work, I've only got a couple of minutes. Teach me Buddhism. It was a crazy idea to teach you Buddhism in a couple of minutes. But you rose to the occasion and it happened. Suffering is asking from this world something it can never give you. So what can't this world give you? If you don't ask for that, then of course you're at peace. So this idea of learning just how to be, wherever you are, not trying to get somewhere else. I want a nice monastery. That's what I want for Ajahn. I want a nice place. I was telling the monks today that, if I haven't told you, listen to this. I did really years ago, I made this suggestion. The best and most worthy place for a Bhikkhuni monastery in UK. Buckingham Palace. It's underused, and poor Queen Elizabeth, she's getting old now. And so she should be moving in like everybody else into an old person's home or something. Oh, I've met her, she's a really nice woman. But why waste that beautiful, it's right in the center of the city. It's really reasonably quiet inside, it's got many rooms. Imagine going on a retreat. All the rooms are already there. You've got lots of food there and security. You wouldn't have to do anything, Ajahn, just sit there and all the guards will look after you. and just feed you. You've got these beautiful gardens in the back where you can do your walking meditation. Imagine having a Buddhist retreat, a meditation retreat in Buckingham Palace. I'm sure lots of people would go. But anyway, just sometimes that you may wish for those things, there's the wanting them causes the suffering. And in the end, what happens in life, nearly all the wonderful places which have fallen into my lap, Bodhinyana Monastery, Dhammasavanand's Monastery, just all of those places, it was just, time was right, they just came really easily. It's one of the reasons why the suffering is wanted. You don't want, and better things happen. It's amazing what happens in life. You just see what happens, go with the flow. Go here, go there. But it's all nice stuff, whatever happens. So anyway, there we go, rambling on for a while. But when you feel safe, you feel contented, you can imagine just sitting wherever you are, any place in the world, closing your eyes, using your imagination. Imagine you're just in imagine you're in Bodh Gaya. Imagining that all the things you ever wanted in the world, you don't want anything anymore. You're free. Freedom of desire is never ever as good as freedom from desire. You never get all the things you want. Never. You let go of wanting. You realize you never wanted them anyway, really. The only thing you really ever wanted was peace, stillness, contentment, the freedom from this constant, you have to do something more. Who said you have to do something more? You put that burden down, you rest. You rest your body, you rest your mind, and believe it or not, you don't fall asleep. You get so content, so energized. In the evening, you can't fall asleep. You're just too alive. So anyway, those are a few little words on just letting go of wanting, using imagination, using your emotions to develop by imagination, to actually get a taste of freedom, seeing and feeling what the Dhamma is truly like. Okay, so I've run out of time again, and so we can do a toilet break, and after the toilet break, we'll do the Buddha meditation as requested. Is that okay?
Right.
Okay. So, toilet break, and then we're back.
So Ajahn, you're not taking that carpet out anymore, are you, from the Dhamma hall?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just, you don't even think about it. See what happens.
Okay, because if you ever do take it out.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to send it to England. No, come on. No, it's not just a carpet. It's just sometimes I really wonder about myself, or my no self, or whatever you want to call it, because you were trained, conditioned, if you like, and it's part of my condition which I will not abandon, is of just you need evidence before you say such things. But that call is just too powerful.
Oh yeah.
You know, that time, for those I'm just chatting along, that time I did a 6-month retreat by myself, and never saw a human being for 6 months. fantastic time. Lots of nice meditation. But in the kuti, I didn't know about this until after, a few days afterwards. The kuti, the hut in which I spent 6 months, total seclusion, only seeing animals, never seeing human beings. That at the end of that retreat, the monks were really excited, and they were having all these little, almost like arguments, who could move in there next. And this German monk was the one who won that little competition. He was going to move in as soon as I moved out. And he told me afterwards that when he moved in, he couldn't stay in there. He said it was too powerful. The energy was too much for him. And so he went somewhere else for a few days until it cooled off a bit. And he was a really nice monk, and very intelligent. But I said, yeah, I didn't realize how energized that part was because I was just sitting in all the time. But afterwards, whoa, it's powerful. You can actually feel it. One of the other times I remember just going over to, landed in one of those visits to the holy sites, landed in Kathmandu, had a day in Kathmandu and visiting the palace, and I was getting bored. I just want to meditate. But anyway, that I wandered off like a naughty monk, naughty tourist away from the group, and just went into one of these doors in the palace. And inside, oh, that was such black energy. I didn't know where I was going. I was just exploring. It was very dark and depressing energy. That was where they would sacrifice animals according to the Hindu tradition of that place. You see the posts there. That's a place to be very difficult to meditate and get a lot of peace. You have to do a lot of loving kindness before that could warm up. But places do have energy. And it's pretty simple to feel those places.
Were you a monk, Ajahn, at that time?
Yeah, a monk, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you're with the lay group, they were Buddhists, but they wanted to go and see this and see that. So you just tagged along with them.
Mm. Okay. Shall we start the meditation?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm just chilling out. We called the day today. Okay, here we go. So the meditation we're going to do today, if you don't want to follow the meditation which I'm doing, you can always just, it's one of the great things for the Zoom retreat, you can mute me or turn the sound down and do your own meditation. But I really enjoy this, and it was requested. So this is the Buddha meditation. So first of all, sit yourself comfortably down, as I'm doing. And close your eyes. First of all, just to make sure your body is reasonably comfortable. Remember the place in Bodh Gaya under this beautiful Bodhi tree. It's cool. And the Buddha, that's shady. The Buddha got himself a nice safu to sit on, got some grass from the forest and made himself a nice little seat. We just had a beautiful meal. Reasonably in the morning time, he sat down after his meal and closed his eyes and made sure he was really comfortable. And after a while, he became our Buddha. And just imagine that's you. Where you're sitting down, I'm not sure, it may not be in India, it may not be under a Bodhi tree, it may be in your little home, wherever you are sitting. I'm sitting in this office in Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth. The trees are outside. But sitting here, you imagine, you use those powers of imagination. Just imagine you are just being enlightened, fully enlightened, an arahat. Just imagine that. Because you're enlightened, you have nothing to prove to anybody in the whole world. You don't have to live up to any people's expectations. You are free from all desires and measurements. More importantly, for many of you, you have nothing to do in the world. What's done, or rather what had to be done, has been done. Many times when we do work for ourselves or for our own business or for our Buddhist societies or for our monasteries, that work is never finished. There's always more cleaning to do, more adjustments to do, more talks to give if you're a teacher. But just imagine, the feeling inside is there's nothing more to be done. What had to be done has been done. So you don't need to plan it anymore. There's nothing left to be done. You're enjoying this moment. There's no anxiety, which often takes us into the future, trying to ensure we don't get hurt again. No anxiety because there's nothing missing anymore. Nothing left to be achieved or to be enjoyed. Everything is at peace. Just like you really have a holiday now. Not a holiday where you have to worry about how you're going to get back into the country afterwards with all the COVID regulations. Not having to be concerned about what's in your baggage or not baggage, because now you're enlightened, you don't really have baggage anymore. Let go of the whole past. Whoever did what to you, whatever you did, all of that past is forgiven and let go of. You are free. There's nothing which belongs to you anymore. It may be scary at first, having no name and no roots, no identity, but you really are peaceful. You don't need anything anymore. What's done has been done. There is no more suffering in the world for you. That which comes up, rising and passing away of things, that is suffering too. But it's not the same depth of suffering. There's nothing you can do with it. You leave it alone. It's not yours. You're totally free. Imagine that you're sitting down and it's almost impossible to think about the future, because the present moment is so perfect and pure. There's nothing left to be done. There's no more wanting inside of you. Very often, right until the end of our lives, we're always trying to learn something more, to do something more, to gain something more, to own something more. Now you don't need any of that at all. What you have is more than enough. You have peace, wisdom, freedom. You can appreciate the freedom of desires is far less than the freedom from desires. Just imagine having no desires at all in your mind. No wanting. Just imagine what that must feel like. This moment is good enough. You don't desire it to be anything else. You don't desire it to last. It's free. The end of all desires, all wanting, all work. Work is trying to achieve your desires. They may be wonderful, good desires for the benefit of others as well. But how much more benefit it is to be a Buddha, to be fully enlightened, to want for nothing in the whole world. And sitting here at peace, because there's nothing to disturb you. All wanting is gone. When you let go of the future, you really are in this present moment. There's no place for wanting to land. It's like a bird which takes off wanting some destination, but there's no destination anymore. You have everything you ever wanted and needed. Peace, contentment. If you're still aware of your body, feel it. It's good enough. Go back into your mind. What did you want? Why did you go to school and do university degrees and courses and trainings and stuff? In the mind, none of that is needed. Like a Buddha sitting, owning nothing in the whole world. When you own something, you're afraid of letting it go. You don't own anything. Somebody once told me the bird sleeping on a tree at night, the more it relaxes, the more the claws on its feet grab into the wood of the branches. The more it relaxes, the more safe it is. Living in forests all my life, I don't see birds laying fallen down from the trees. They relax and rest so well. The more they relax, the more their claws stick into the wood, and the safer they are. Just like you. The more you relax, the more you stay still in this present moment, the more safe you become. So it's like a Buddha sitting under the tree, perfectly still, not because you want to be still, but because you make yourself still. You realize that stillness is natural, like a default state. When you're not have to do something, then don't do anything. Imagine what stillness feels like inside. The emotion of peace, nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, nothing to prove to others. This moment, so empty, and so perfect, so peaceful. Most of my life I've spent doing stuff, pleasing others, making things happen. If you're enlightened, imagine you're enlightened, there's nothing more to be done. Nothing to be done. You've broken through. Peace, safety. What more do you need? So sitting here, just being aware, not wanting anything in the whole world, not needing anything in this whole world. Free from wanting, free from any idea of imperfection. Here you are, at peace with this. You don't try and work this out as a philosophy. This is an emotional truth which you feel as power. You have a taste of freedom. The taste of freedom is so delicious. Just imagining you're enlightened, what it must feel like. Free of peace, not wanting anything ever again. Your duties to the world are just showing it can be done. Hopefully that emotion of peace, of nothing more to be done, nothing needed, brings the sense of peace to your mind, where you're not trying to get something in meditation, not trying to get rid of things. You're enjoying this being here, free from the hindrances. Remember that fifth hindrance of doubt. Don't doubt the reality of now. You're experiencing this. It's true for you. Being here, like a Buddha. Please excuse me again, I have to be quiet now. Stillness reminds me to be quiet. Getting close to the end of this meditation period now. How do you feel? This peace, stillness, contentment. How strong are those? How does your body feel? When you're ready, open your eyes. And come out of the meditation. Beautiful to be able to feel this peace, this stillness, and the joy of it. What more do you want in the world? Okay. Let's Buddha guided meditation to begin with, and letting people be free afterwards. Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn.
So, see you again in a couple of hours. Bye bye. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you, Ajahn.